Hello and welcome to this episode of It's Called Soccer. This week we catch up with the host of Last Week Tonight and huge Liverpool fan, Mr. John Oliver.
Could what you do work in soccer, in football?
You're a bit of an emotional arsonist anyway, aren't you? You don't mind watching things burn, so you'd probably be okay, Gary.
We discuss the Champions League and if we should take the Unify League seriously or not.
I read the report earlier that said that they're now going to actually award positions in this league based upon merit and qualification, which is very nice of them.
Is it time for Pep Guardiola to move on? Is there further to go in the City collapse?
Well, they're playing Salford in a few weeks. I mean, that would be rock bottom.
And we all give our big midway point-ish Premier League predictions.
It's the first time I've actually said United won't be in the top four, I think, in about 15 years. But yeah.
That is all to come on this episode of It's Called Soccer. And don't forget, as always, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. Welcome everybody to this week's edition of It's Called Soccer, brought to you by AllState. And that's where we're going to begin. AllState moment of the week. Once again, Gary, it's quite obvious what it's going to be. Go.
Yes, massively shocked at the end of the Manchester derby. It was a pretty poor game, but Amadu was United's best player. I mean, lit it up, and it has to be him. That winning goal was spectacular and definitely is the moment of the week. Shook the whole country to its absolute core.
Wow. Did Amad Diallo do everything in that game and in that moment that Marcus Rashford and Alejandro Garnacho have not been doing, and that's why we have the situation that we have?
Yeah, and I think he's been doing that for the last month or so. I think that it's been coming with Rashford and Garnacho. I mean, not necessarily to the point where I thought they'd be left out of the squad. I never thought that would happen. But it must be getting to a pretty low point for a new manager who's only 4 weeks in to get to a point where he's left those two out, who I said on Sunday after the game, if you'd said to me at the start of the season who are Manchester United's best attacking players, I would say Garnacho and Rashford. They're now not even in the 20 or in the 18, 19 players in the squad, obviously at the weekend. I'm sure they'll come back in this week. But Amad's been... Do you know something? Sometimes, and I have to say, it's not just... This is nothing to do with Garnacho and Rashford. Even watching City's wingers, I can't stand this modern phenomenon of wingers getting the ball and not fronting fullbacks up and just basically recycling it all the time. It's happening constantly. Wingers are having the risk taken out of the game. Amad completely defies that. He goes back to the traditional principle of, I get the ball and my first thought is, I'm going to attack whoever it is that's in front of me. And that's the player I don't want to play against as a fullback. I want that player that's going to basically take it 5 yards down the line, cut back, and have a look to cross it with his right foot or pass it back round through the midfield. So Amad for me is intent, is risk taking, his energy, the way in which he sprints to close people down. He did that not just in the last 10 minutes of the game, he did that the whole game, is how football should be played. And I think that he's been the best Manchester United player in this last 4 weeks under Amorim, and I think he's been the best Manchester United player this season in respect of how he's approached the game. So I'm absolutely delighted for him. And you know, I said after the game Sunday, you get out of life what you put in, and he puts an awful lot of work in. He was ridiculed, actually, not through any fault of his own a few years ago, because obviously everyone saw this kid just completely disappear. They signed him for 30 odd million quid and he never got a game, and you thought, what's happened here? But it looks like sort of half decent business now as, you know, United look back, and obviously the question marks remain over the other two.
Well, that's where I want to take it, Jamie, with you, with Rashford and Garnacho. And of course, Rashford tends to get more of the headlines just because he's a Manchester lad. He was picked in the first game under Ruben Amorim. He scored after 81 seconds under Ruben Amorim. So it's not like he's come in, Amorim, and not given either of them a go. But that's quite a big fall, isn't it? To get picked in the first game, score after a couple of minutes, and now be bombed out of the squad altogether because of the way you eat, something to do with how you get dressed, and not engaging with your teammates, not lifting them up, I think is maybe what the translation is. Where do you stand on the decision that Amorim made and where we go now with these two?
I think the decision for Amorim was actually very easy, and I think it's one of them where it makes him look really powerful and really strong. He sends a message, but he's not actually losing anything in the team. I'm not sure Rashford improves the team, certainly in the current setup, the system. So I think in some ways it was almost like an open goal or an easy win for the manager, because sometimes when we see players or managers make this decision, and they'll take a big name player out and it sends a message, and they think, you know what, I'm going to take the risk because this is for the greater good. I'm sending a message to the squad. I might lose something in this game today, but I'm prepared to put up with that and accept it. I don't think you are losing anything if Rashford's not playing. He's not that good. He's a good player. He's been a good player for Man United. He hasn't been for about 18 months. And I don't think Rashford playing in that game yesterday, and I'm not just saying this because United won, because I don't think it was a great game, to be honest. I think it was a poor game. I don't think Manchester United are missing anything with Marcus Rashford not playing particularly at all. So I think it was an easy win. He's the biggest name because he's the one we talk about a lot. He's the one on the highest wages maybe, but I think it was an easy win for the manager there, and I'm glad he's come out the other side of it and won. But I don't think I'd have been looking at that thinking, oh, he's cutting off his nose to spite his face here by leaving Marcus Rashford out, because I don't think, I wouldn't put him in Manchester United's starting 11.
But they have a problem though, Jamie, don't they? Because he's on 325, 350 grand a week. He's come out and sort of questioned and has questioned his attitude. It's not going to, I wouldn't have thought, it's going to be it's a depressed market anyway in terms of trying to sell Marcus Rashford on these kind of wages with over 3 years left on his deal. Do you think the only problem he's left himself with is it's going to be even harder to sell him now that he's come out and said what he said?
It might be, but you just said he's given himself a problem. It's Man United's problem. I don't think it's the manager's problem. He's new into the door. The club have to provide him with funds to get Manchester United back again. He didn't give Marcus Rashford the contract. This is Manchester United's problem. And I would imagine if he continues to show a bad attitude, he'll be saying, I don't want him in my squad. You have to deal with that, and you have to basically pay him off. Whatever you need to do, you need to move him on because he's not part of my plans. And that's a club problem rather than the manager problem. He's
got to go, hasn't he, Gary? He's got to go now.
Look, I'm both of them are players who've come through the ranks and played for the youth team, so I've got an affinity to them in respect of the fact that I want it to work. He has been a 30 goal striker in a season, so there's an element of he's proven. But obviously his performances for the last 18 months have been very disappointing. And Garnacho has just gone off the boil. He's inconsistent. So I don't want to separate the two really, because they were both left out on Sunday. I always like to think there's a way back. Players that I played with, to be fair, who've got a lot better form, a lot better careers, were left out in the stands at times. Famous players who were sort of, if you like, quite at times openly, thrown into the stands, and it was big news, and there was a lot made of it. So it's not the first time this has happened at a football club where a player's been discarded. However, Manchester United are looking for a cultural reset. And I think what's really clear is that I've watched wingers, I watched even Trossard, Martinelli and Saka for Arsenal. You watch Liverpool's wide players, even Salah, who, to be fair, I think has bought himself a little bit of respite from chasing back every single time, but I think he still does. He gets back into a position. And you watch every other team in the league-wide players, they go and take high positions and then they get back in and they get narrow, or they basically get back to help. Garnacho and Rashford have been stuck up there on that left and right wing for the last 2 years, not doing the basics and the fundamentals of what you need to do without out of possession, thinking that that's the way in which ultimately they want to play the game, and maybe it's the way in which the coach wanted them to play the game at times. So they're going to have to respond to what is a big setback for themselves, and they're going to have to respond well, because I do think they're in last chance saloon. What Manchester United can't continue to do is carry passengers. And I'm not talking about people who are not talented. I'm talking about people who just don't put the shift in that's expected at the highest level. Manchester United are a team who have one of the lowest running distances in the league. They're one of the worst from set pieces. They don't come from behind and they lose big away games. All the traits of a team that you don't want when you're talking about mentality. They've got to change that, and to do that, something's got to be stark. So they're all playing for their futures, but those two, I think, have had a light shone upon them now, and Ruben Amorim on Sunday becomes empowered and more authority off the back of that decision he made.
Let's just switch it to Manchester City, Jamie. Is there further to go in the City collapse?
Well, they're playing Salford in a few weeks. That would be rock bottom. And Gary put a mischievous tweet out, didn't he, when the draw came out? He's getting sacked in the morning. Now, that could end up being true if this continues and Salford get a result. But, you feel like it can't get any worse, and then it does. And it feels like they've lost games in every way you could imagine. You play Liverpool and you just get beaten by the quality, and, it's just a better team than you. You're 3-0 up, it goes 3-3, Feyenoord. And then your situation where you lose a derby in the last minute, it's sort of, it's not even like a set pattern. Every way you can lose a game or throw a game away, that's what's happening to them now. And I don't even think we've even been that critical of them, to be honest, because it's very difficult when a team has achieved so much. But we were looking at this on Monday Night Football. You're looking at the results. I think the last 11 games, they've lost 8. If a promoted team in the Premier League lost 8 in 11, you'd be fearing for the manager's job. Now, of course, we're not saying about Pep Guardiola because of what they've done, but it is almost unprecedented. I mean, some great teams have had tough times, but this is like, you don't know when it's going to end. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. I didn't think I'd ever see this to a Pep Guardiola team. Every manager's been through it. Even Mourinho at a certain stage, Klopp a couple of years ago at Liverpool. Klopp actually at one stage lost 6 home games in a row in a COVID season. Joe, even Alex Ferguson, you could argue, when he first came into Manchester United, it was a bit rocky. I always just thought Pep was just almost superhuman. He'd never go through this bad patch, but it just shows you know, every team's and manager's time sort of comes to an end, and they're going to have to rebuild and build a new team.
Gary, I think you said on your comments after the game that this isn't a time to criticise, like Jamie just said. And I don't think we are criticising the team. It's almost impossible to do that. It's more analysing Pep Guardiola. I mean, I feel a little bit disappointed by him. I feel like this is not somebody who's played the game, but like, if you're that good, I mean, Jamie just said it, all those managers have been through difficult moments, and this one, not only is it not stopping, but his demeanour, his answers, I don't know, I'm left a bit disappointed by him. Is that unfair?
Yeah, I mean, I, to be fair, from the very beginning when Rodri got injured, was expecting innovation. I was expecting something different to compensate for the loss of this great player and this important player. So I'm not disappointed, to be fair. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that I keep turning up every week to watch City, or the times that I have. And I see Gundogan in midfield with Bernardo Silva, or I see Kovacic in midfield with Gundogan. I'm thinking, it's not working. It's quite obviously not working. But I think there are bigger problems than that. Defenders are playing poorly. The goalkeeper's playing poorly. The wide players are not good enough. And the striker, to be fair, at this moment in time, is having a sort of inconsistent moment. So it's all going wrong. But I'm surprised. I expected something. That's from maybe going back 10, 12 years when we've seen Yaya Toure playing centre-half in the Champions League final, Mascherano becoming one of the best centre-backs in the world, who was a holding midfield player. Messi going from being out-and-out right winger. Messi hadn't played anywhere else. He was a right winger, and he ends up playing as a false 9 for Barcelona, and he transforms the whole club into the greatest team we've ever seen. All these things came out of Pep Guardiola's sort of ideas of how to see the game, and nothing feels right at the moment. So yeah, I'm surprised, not disappointed, because I think all of us this season, Rebecca, forget the fact that we're Liverpool and United fans. None of us wanted to see Manchester City win the league this season. It would have not killed the league, but it was getting to that point of just, it needs to change. We need a new league winner. I hope it's not his lot. But if it is, then to be fair, it is what it is. But we couldn't have City winning the league again, because we're getting to the point whereby it was almost like Scotland or almost like Germany.
Throughout his career, Pep Guardiola has always probably had other coaches saying privately to each other, yeah, but he always has the best players. He always has the most money to spend. And when that's been thrown at me, I've said, hang on, what Gary's just said, what he did with Messi, what he did with fullbacks, how he changed the game, John Stones in midfield, all these different things. He's a pioneer, he's ahead of the game. But this is the one time when if people are saying that, you can't really argue with them, because he's missing a couple of players. Some of his best players aren't at the best. But as you said, Rebecca, if he is the best coach in the world, he should be making a better fist of this than he is right now.
Do either of you think, this is my little thought for the day, the results carry on like this, we get to sort of February, the results of the 115 charges have still not come out, because I think he needs to decide before that. They can't come out and then something happen, because it'll look bad. The optics will look bad. I just wonder, he just doesn't look well. He doesn't look happy. I just wonder if he gets to kind of February and he says, you know what, to the club, should we just null and void the contract? Because I made a mistake. I don't think I want to see this out. I actually do need a break. I'm knackered. And then you don't think so, Gary? And then the next month, if the results of the charges come, How can he carry on? This just doesn't. It's not working. He's all out of ideas. He said
it could happen, but I'd be really disappointed if that happened. I think now, what Jamie's just touched on, I want to see him build a third team. He doesn't have the energy,
Gary, does he?
No, but I think, look, there's no doubt we've not mentioned the physical aspect for these players, by the way. We've mentioned that they're all not in form, but the physical aspect of what these players have done and the drop-off is enormous, and it's something that's obviously clear for everyone to see. I just don't think he'll do that. I think that the ego and the obsessiveness of these managers to rebuild and recreate a new team and sort of create... They'll back him in... They'll go and buy 3 or 4 players.
He might not want to be backed. He doesn't look like his statement yesterday was, what was it? He's talked about, I'm not good enough. I am the boss, I'm the manager, I have to find solutions, and I haven't.
That was Pep just completely and utterly taking the pressure off the players, I felt like. I mean, they're still only like 9 points off the top of the league. It's mad that they've lost 8 games in this run. I know they've not all been Premier League games. And the fact they're still 9 points off the top of the league, ordinarily you wouldn't rule City out at this point if you were Manchester City, 9 points off the top of the league with like 22 games to go still. No, I still think... I hope he stays because, to be honest with you, what I want to see is him go through this and then ultimately see whether he comes out the other side and how he comes out the other side.
Jay?
I think it looked terrible if he moved on now. But I mean, listen, sometimes a manager's got to do what's right for him and the job takes it out of him. But I just keep going back to what happened to Liverpool a couple of years ago with Klopp, and he had to get through a season. Liverpool ended up finishing 5th. He had Fabinho and Henderson in midfield. The legs had gone and there was nothing he could do to fix it. And the only way he could fix it was the transfer market. And I think the fact Klopp left when he did was almost a case of, I couldn't leave the club in that situation. I always had to make it a little bit better. Because you look at Liverpool now, Liverpool could go on and win the league. And in some ways, Jurgen Klopp might be sitting there thinking, I started that process last season, but he just didn't have the energy, but he couldn't leave at such a bad time. So I even think if Pep does want to leave, he almost can't in some ways not because they haven't won the league or the Champions League, because it's so bad. I think it's almost his job to fix it and then maybe do what Klopp does and go give it to somebody else then who could maybe take them back to being champions. But he has to make them back to being competitive because, as Gary said, it's not the points difference. And I said this after they got beat by Liverpool. I said they were out the title race then. I didn't think they could finish above Arsenal or Chelsea after they lost to Liverpool, because what you're seeing on the pitch, you can only change that in the transfer market. That's not I'm not even sure it's a coaching thing or a system thing. There's 5 or 6 players in the same position who are too old or the legs have gone. I still see City could still lose another 5 league games. You know, it was out of those 22. I could see City losing the next game against Aston Villa away. If City went to Villa and won, I'm thinking, that's a great result.
Carragher was in America last week working on NBC. You won't have seen that Rebecca made a statement that Chelsea will be top of the league on January the 1st. I'm just looking at the table and they're 2 points off.
Was this the Rebecca Lowe lowdown?
It was the low point, yeah. Yeah, she said Chelsea will be top of the league January the 1st. It's not looking like it's not a ridiculous shout.
It's not the worst shout I've ever had, and I've had some bad ones.
5-6 points behind at the time. I thought something.
But what's interesting
that.
is that you don't think, Gary, that Liverpool are going to win the league, do you? Why?
I think, to be honest with you, I don't think they'll maintain what they've currently done for the rest of the season when I watch them play. But they do have, they've been conceding goals in the last few weeks. I think ultimately they've got good strikers, great striking options. There's no doubt they're the best team at this moment in time. But I think when they hit a patch, which I think it feels to me like they'll hit a patch, I do think that Arsenal have not hit their form yet, and Arsenal are only 6 points behind. Chelsea are 2 points behind. I feel like there's a twist in this season. To me, and look, maybe it's completely blind this, and Liverpool go and win the league, and it's obvious. When you win your first league, sometimes it's so challenging and difficult. And I just wonder whether Arsenal, who, to be fair, at this moment in time, I watched the whole game on Saturday against Everton, and to talk about recycling possession round from one side to another, it is absolutely driving me crazy watching Arsenal play.
And Rebecca, I can vouch for that from the text messages he was sending on the group chat to me.
Honestly,
he was really frustrated he didn't get the winner.
Honestly, I'm serious watching Arsenal on Saturday, and I'm thinking, kitchen sink, please. You need a goal. This is where you take massive risks. I know it's not really built into teams nowadays to do this. They sort of keep playing the same way to try and get the goal and stuff like that. But come on, almost like just show some level of risk that goes outside of the norm. And they win that game on Saturday. All of a sudden, they're in real business. Because their run of games is pretty good in the next couple of weeks. And you have to win that game. So I'm frustrated by them because I do believe that not playing well up to Christmas in January and you're a few points off the top of the league is a great position to be in, because you do turn your form at some point. You do when you're a team like that. And Arsenal's form will turn if they can get within a few points. And if they go on a run, I think they win it, is my honest view. But at the moment, Chelsea and Liverpool are better, there's no doubt.
Guys, we've got plenty of content coming up of Christmas, but this right now is the last time that we're going to be together in 2024. So just before we move on, I just want to get a couple of predictions. My only prediction I'm sticking with, Chelsea will be top on New Year's Day. Not saying they win the league, but on New Year's Day. So I need champions, I need top four, I need relegation. Gary, you go first. Champions, you're going to still go with Arsenal?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Arsenal on the base. I think they'll hit the form. They've got a decent run of fixtures over Christmas. I think they'll get within a couple of points, few points, and I think they'll hit the form in the new year. And I do think they'll win the league this season. Top four, I've not got full faith in Tottenham and Villa, and to be fair, Forest and Bournemouth and all the other teams that are in and around it. I think City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal at this moment in time. It's the first time I've actually said United won't be in the top four, I think, in about 15 years. But yeah,
just as they're starting to get good.
Yeah, relegation.
It's actually not that easy, is it?
No, I mean, Southampton definitely. I think Ipswich will go.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Wolves because, to be fair, when I watched, what game did I do? Wolves, and I thought,
Wolves, Liverpool.
Yeah. And to be fair, Liverpool weren't great in the game at all, but they didn't have to be. And they were absolutely awful, Wolves. And I thought, oh no. So I think Wolves, to be honest with you, I think probably are going to go unless they can do something in the January transfer window.
All right, Jay, champions top four.
I'll go for Liverpool. You know what? I'm going to go for Chelsea second.
Wow.
Because they've got no real Europe or that Conference League that they're in. You know, I'll go with Chelsea, I'll go with Arsenal, and I'll go with Man City.
And relegation?
The relegation, I'm going to go for the three teams who came up.
You think Forest will stay up now, Cara?
I think they might just have half a chance.
Do you know something?
Guys,
actually, I'm not reveling in this, but it is probably looking like the worst prediction of all time, even though I would have said that Forest were in the hunt for going down as well, so I'm not exactly saying he will. It's unbelievable.
I might have done that as well.
I've got an even better prediction. I have actually got an even worse prediction of all time. That Messi was finished and the fella goes on and wins the World Cup. He said, come on.
You never said that Messi
don't even respect. You said people don't even respect Messi. No, they just take the ball off him. He got player of the tournament and won the World Cup. He'll
win the Ballon d'Or when he's 63 because he'll keep getting voted for. Rebecca,
yes.
You're not getting away with this. Who are your predictions?
Okay, I'm going to go with Chelsea. I think it's a weird season.
Oh.
So I've said New Year's Day and I'm also saying May. I know it's a bit out there, but I quite like being a bit out there. And at the beginning of the season...
Sorry, Rebecca. Yes. You do know Liverpool play at Chelsea, I think... Second or third last.
I know.
Maybe Liverpool's last or second.
I just think once every 10 years, I don't have a lot of historical backing on this, but once every 10 years, there's like a sprinkling of weirdness. I'm going to go Chelsea. I'm going to go Liverpool second, Arsenal third, City fourth. And then I'm going to relegate the same three that Jamie's going for. I think Van Nistelrooy, as much as I like him, I think he's classy, but I think they're going down.
This episode of It's Called Soccer is in association with AllState. Some people just know they could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance by checking AllState first. It's always smart to check first. Like checking that big guy next to you at the bar actually supports your team before you start wildly celebrating that last-minute winner. Or checking you filled up with gas and packed the spare tyre before you set out on an epic road trip to the big match. And what if you booked that dream vacation just before you check the date of the cup final? Checking first is always smart, so check AllState first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with AllState. This content is intended for audiences in the US only. Savings vary and terms apply. AllState Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
This episode of It's Called Soccer is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Dealing with wireless providers used to drive me mad. Those hidden fees, surprise charges, it was a different shock with every new bill. But with Mint Mobile, what you see is exactly what you get. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month for a 3-month plan, they mean it. No tricks, no sneaky stuff, just straightforward savings. Say goodbye to those jaw-dropping bills from overpriced wireless plans. With Mint Mobile, you'll get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. That includes high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. And switching couldn't be easier. You can keep your current phone and bring your number and all your contacts. No hassle, just better service for a fraction of the price. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/ICS. That's mintmobile.com/ICS. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/ICS. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
It's Called Soccer is sponsored by SeatGeek. Okay, everyone, we're right in the thick of winter and right in the thick of sports season. The NBA and NHL seasons are in full swing and the NFL playoffs will be here before you know it. It's all happening. Whatever elite sport you're into, get your tickets sorted with SeatGeek. I've been checking out the app and it's got everything I need to get to a game. And even better, you can use the code ICS10 to get 10% off any tickets on SeatGeek. That's right, 10% off any ticket, whether you're a new customer or not, sports, concerts, festivals, you name it. SeatGeek makes it simple to find the best tickets. They've got a rating system from 1 to 10, so you just look for the green dots. Green means a great deal, red means bad. Nice and easy, right? So, grab your phone, open the SeatGeek app, and add the code ICS10 to your account. Don't hang about, because this offer's not here for long, and those games are coming thick and fast. Remember, that's the code ICS10 in the app for 10% off tickets at SeatGeek, up to a maximum of $20 off. Get your tickets now.
So we're going to move on to the Unify League, guys. I mean, how exciting is this? The Unify League. If nobody knows what we're talking about, we are talking about a brand new Super League that today, the breaking news, that A22 Sports Management, seem like great guys, have officially submitted proposals to UEFA and FIFA for a new multi-tiered European club competition called the Unify League. This is 3 years on from the failed European Super League project. Men's side of things, there's going to be 4 divisions. Women's side, there's going to be 2 divisions. I mean, it's going nowhere, Gary, right?
No, I don't think it is, because I think that obviously they've used up all their credit, or any credit that they may have had. I know that I read the report earlier that said that they're now going to actually award positions in this league based upon merit and qualification, which is very nice of them. It's pleasant.
That's kind.
It's a pleasant change from where they were a few years ago. But I think the reality of it is, in football, I think, you know, the trust of what they've proposed previously will mean they'll find it very difficult, I think, to gain a footprint in the game. However, it depends who they're backed by, Rebecca. And I'll be really honest with you, when something comes forward like this, you know, you think about what, say, for instance, Saudi Arabia have done in golf, when you think about what other countries have done in certain sports, it depends who the backers are. If the backers are persistent, and you know that obviously Juventus, Real Madrid, Barcelona are huge clubs. They're absolutely massive clubs, monstrous clubs in this world. If they've got some clubs behind them and they've got the money, and the money's so large that it just blows everything else out of the sort of, you know, I mean, FIFA have set up a World Club Cup that's coming in the summer that, to be fair, not many people are having. So I can't be as certain as Super League to say it won't happen, because the reality of it is that was a flawed methodology of how they were actually creating the league. However, a Super League of sorts that actually has some qualification merit to it, right, is something that's probably going to happen at some point in the future. However, these guys bringing it forward, I can't see how it can happen just through trust, but depends who's behind it. And I do caveat it, because we've seen what's happened with golf and we've seen what's happened in other sports, and it can happen.
Does it make you nervous, Jamie, or no?
Not right now, but I'm with Gary. I mean, I think Real Madrid and Barcelona, these other big clubs who are involved, maybe 3 or 4 of them, have embarrassed themselves with the original Super League, and then they kept sort of going. All of the English teams dropped out, and there's these 3 clubs still going, saying we're keeping, we're trying to revive the Super League. But for them to go again, you start worrying and thinking, who is back, and then what other clubs have said, well, okay, if you get it off the ground, maybe we will join. But it all fell apart because of the Premier League last season, and I think it'll all fall down again or be resurrected because of the Premier League clubs. It's all probably down to our owners or maybe our supporters. Supporters' power. Last time, the feeling of everybody in this country, I think, stopped that happening in the end. And I think it made our own club owners realise the reason this is getting created is because of the Premier League. The Premier League is the Super League. These clubs cannot believe the money and the revenue that teams that finish probably 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 in our league pick up. I mean, some of the greatest clubs historically in Europe can't match the revenues of what we'd probably associate as some of the, not the smallest clubs, but some of the smallest clubs in the Premier League. What they bring in terms of, 100, 120 million. So you think of probably teams like Benfica's and Porto's, people in leagues like that, not necessarily Real Madrid and Barcelona. But yeah, I think it's really tough to create this without the English clubs, and I think it'll take a lot of nerve and courage. Well, courage is maybe not the right word, but for an English club to get involved in this now after the reaction that they had last time.
I just want to mention, and I'm just checking it then because I knew I'd seen it pop up on something earlier on my news, that Olmo, who signed for Barcelona, is now, because of financial troubles, they're now saying that he can't play for the club potentially for the rest of the season. I mean, Barcelona are in such a desperate financial state for such an amazing club that an extra 150, 200 million a year is going to be a game changer for them. And there are clubs in our country, in the last 12 to 18 months, we have seen stresses occur in Premier League clubs who are close to the edge on sort of, if you like, the PSR stuff. So, finances, the cost of players, just some stress in Europe in the game with Italy and Spain. You cannot rule out that somebody's going to exploit that and come in with a monumental offer. But I agree with Jamie, it's going to be difficult to get it away without the English clubs coming on board. And I think the English clubs would be very, very nervous about basically sort of entering into it because the backlash could be enormous.
Let's just finish on the current elite league, which is the Champions League, Jamie, that you work on. We're halfway through pretty much. The new format, you like it?
I love it. And to be honest, it's not because we do it really. When it was first proposed, I thought, okay, I was excited about it because the Champions League group stage had just had its day. It was just, I got to the stage where, and I always say this, when the Champions League first started, and Gary was probably playing in it in sort of the early to mid-90s, you were getting to the stage where, say, Sir Alex Ferguson, if he had a league game, he was leaving it like 3 or 4 players. I was like, got the big Champions League game midweek. And then it flipped, where it got to the stage where the Premier League games were actually that big and that important. And this was probably when I was playing in the Champions League and we were doing well. You were winning games with ease in the group stage and you were probably qualified after 4 games. And it was a little bit like Champions League games, certainly match day 5 and match day 6, were almost getting treated like a Carabao Cup game. Because the power of the Premier League, the revenue, the squads we had, I think was far better. Now, what this has done is made every game matter. We've got an extra 2 games in there. I like the fact as well, when you look at teams like someone like Celtic, I think is the perfect example, where everybody's got a couple of games against teams of their level, so it gives them a chance to win a game. You'd see teams in groups at one point after 5 or 6 games, just getting battered. And, Rosenborg, who someone springs to mind, where they're in the Champions League every year, but they never win a game, things like that. Yeah. So I think we've seen, lots of teams you wouldn't expect in the top 8. We've seen teams actually going into the last couple of games sort of thinking, no guarantee to qualify. Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, even Man City. So it's going to take it to the wire. I think there are a couple of things you've got to try and get your heads around that you can't work out, that it's a league. So when Liverpool play Real Madrid, you're thinking, it feels strange that you're not playing them away. Or then Real Madrid plays someone else and you're thinking, does that affect us the way you would do? But you've got to think of it as a league. The way I'd want Man City to get beat at the weekend. So I should really be watching it and hope City go out or Real Madrid go out. So I think they're the things we'll get our heads around. But I think match day 8 will be amazing, because all the games are played at the same time. Every time a goal goes in, the league table will change, and it'll just be constantly moving about. And I think there'll be some great drama.
And as of today, go on, Gary.
Yeah, I've not connected with it as much, to be honest with you, Rebecca, partly because, to be fair, I don't work on it as obviously intensely as Carragher does, and he's doing it obviously every other week. But I think that, you know, even when I've watched the games, which obviously I've, if there's been a big English team playing, and you're watching, let's say, City v Sporting Lisbon a couple of weeks ago, I almost feel like I was watching a game that was important. I watched Arsenal, I think, play in... was it Arsenal played in Milan? Inter Milan a few weeks or whatever. Yeah. And you're watching a big match, Arsenal versus Inter Milan, but without really the jeopardy of thinking that if they lost this, they could not get through to the knockout phases, knowing that they can make mistakes. And I felt like I was watching big games, but not really with the jeopardy in there. Now, the same sometimes occurred in the Champions League group phase of 4 teams, when 2 teams dominated and they were well ahead. I get the fact that it will get really exciting in the 7th and 8th games, and it'll come to life. But I always thought you always had in those groups of 4, you always had, to be fair, some last day games which were really important and teams could get knocked out. So look, the fact of the matter is, with the Champions League, the knockout phase of the competition post-Christmas, February onwards, is absolutely amazing and always has been. I think it's just absolutely, you know, when I think Champions League quarters, semis in sort of March, April, I'm removing stuff from my week to make sure that I'm watching those games, because they are spectacles, they're events, they're amazing. However, I think the group phase as it was struggling a little bit, but I've not quite connected with this in the same way as I thought I would either yet. I'm a little bit uncertain.
All right, that's fair. Jamie, just quickly, who do you think is going to win it right now?
I mean, the amount of times I have said Real Madrid don't look like a champion team and they end up winning it, I don't know. I'm almost... Can City do something where you think they're miles away in the league and they get themselves together by buying a couple of players in January or something? Because every time you go into the Champions League, I still only think there's like 4 or 5 teams max who can win it. I don't think Arsenal can win it, because I just don't think they've got that mentality, that thing of Europe. They don't feel to me like a European team. I think Real Madrid can always win it. Man City can always win it. They've been the 2 best teams. Liverpool are back in it. Liverpool can win it. Bayern Munich, I always feel that type of team who believe they can win it.
Give me a name, Jamie. Give me a name.
I think Liverpool can win it.
Love it. So we've got a double.
I think Liverpool right
on.
now look like the best. Well, Liverpool have won every game in the Champions League this season.
Exactly.
You know, so, yeah. I mean...
Okay. All right, Jamie's going Liverpool. Gary,
we're going to do the double.
Double for Liverpool. Gary, name?
I'll go Barcelona with an outside bet on Inter. Inter Milan.
So you've gone with
Inter's the other one, yeah. Inter's the other one.
I'll go on Inter.
Right.
I would love to see Inter win it.
Inter. I'll go Inter as an outside bet.
Now it is time for us to bring you a very special interview. Just a few weeks ago, Gary and I hit downtown Manhattan to catch up with the host of Last Week Tonight and huge Liverpool fan, the one and only John Oliver. Thank you so much. Wow. Guys, this is beautiful. Hi, John.
You gotta be a real arsehole to get tired of this.
You really do.
Look at this. What a view.
Hello.
How are you?
What's up, Gary?
How are you?
Good to see you.
Big stuff over here you're doing, aren't you? You have to give me some advice. Could what you do work in soccer, in football?
He wants to do it. He's decided.
No, I'm incapable of doing it.
No, you could do it. Monologue.
Well,
this is the start of the interview, by the way. We're going to go with it.
We've pressed record.
I'm going to press record here. I know you were going to start this
You
show.
go for it, Gary, please.
Right. Could what you do work in football?
I don't know. It depends what kind of personal investment you have in football, really. Because you can't really have any friends doing this in the areas that you're talking about.
I don't have any friends.
I was going to say, you're a bit of an emotional arsonist anyway, aren't you? You don't mind watching things burn, so you'd probably be okay, Gary.
You're fine.
In general, no, but you have to be some level of sociopath. And
I'm in. We're in.
Wow, this is amazing. Analysis of his personality so quick. I love it. I love it. Okay, shall we get into it?
Yeah.
I think that was into it.
I think we're all the way in.
I'd like to push on that a little bit.
Go for it,
on then. So talk to me about how you do what you do.
Well, I would say that you cannot afford to be curtailed by feeling like you owe people anything. So when we talk about companies, it's easy to do, partly because we don't have advertisers, right? It's a subscription model on HBO. So that would genuinely be more difficult on commercial television in the US, which is, of course, so driven through advertiser pressure.
Yeah.
So we're very lucky to be able to talk relentless shit about companies without them having any leverage over us.
Right.
Essentially, McKinsey is a firm that projects a huge amount of confidence to sell a frequently unremarkable product at sky-high prices, making them truly the Salt Bay of companies. You've had salt before, but have you ever had it from a douche?
To make a show about football, I really do think you would be okay, because there's not really much.
That's all relentless shit.
You talk relentless shit, and I say that as the highest form of compliment on my. People can smell bullshit, right? So they can smell if you're pulling your punches. I think to a certain extent that's why there's a clear difference between pundits who care about what their people they've played with or what current players think of them, and those that don't or have earned the right to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say.
John, how did you get here? How did you grow up? How did you grow up in England and get to be one of the biggest household names in comedy in the United States?
I mean, I kind of failed my way here, to be honest. Like, I was doing comedy in England. I was doing the Edinburgh Festival every year. Me and Andy Zoltzman, the guy that I was writing with at the time, we'd had a bunch of shows cancelled by Radio 4, and then out of nowhere, Jon Stewart offered me a job. But this wasn't like the Beatles saying, I've cracked Britain, let's see if I can do it in America.
So
it was, I've failed here, let me try somewhere else.
How did Jon Stewart find you? I mean, Jon Stewart of The Daily Show.
Yes.
How did he find you?
He was looking for another correspondent, and for the first time they decided they were going to look overseas. And I think Ricky Gervais, who I didn't know and have barely met since, recommended me to him because of some of the stuff that I was doing around London at the time. And it all happened pretty fast. I've barely been home since. Most of my belongings are still in...
No.
Yes, a storage facility in South Norwood, because I was living in Crystal Palace.
Great place.
And so it's the best.
Thank you.
And I've still got a storage facility of my life cast in amber, really, from 2006.
So nearly 20 years ago?
Yes, it's still there.
Do we think we need to maybe make the move?
I work all the time, so I can't, and I've got little kids now, so I can't really justify saying I need to go and empty out my storage locker full of nothing of value.
Okay.
Like, if it's ever one of those Storage Wars shows, don't bid on that.
They do will those storage companies, don't they?
Yes.
People just forgetting
Exactly.
that they've got basically stuff in there.
Exactly. So I've got there's nothing of value in there. I've definitely paid over the last
you're
2
every
decades.
month,
Yes,
still?
more than anything is in there. I'm just setting fire to money for clothes that don't fit anymore and photos I've been happy not to look at for 20 years.
Amazing. So you came over, you started with Jon Stewart,
Yeah.
which is a massive, massive show over here. And then how did you get your own show?
Well, Jon Stewart left one summer in 2013 to go and direct a film. And then I sat in for him. He needed someone to take over, so I was like a caretaker manager for him, or manager player, really. So I was hosting it as well, and so I did that. And then when he came back, he said, you should think about what you want to do next, which is thinking back feels like the kind of thing you say when you don't want to say you're fired to someone. But then I got offered a job off the back of it, and then it's not stopped since. So I've been doing this show since 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been relentless.
Do you feel that you've got freedom in your work?
Total freedom. But again, it is atypical for US television, which is so heavily advertiser based.
Yeah.
Especially in 2014, it was kind of the only place that you could go then. This was just at the start of Netflix really becoming a massive force. And so HBO had the reputation of being where you could do whatever you want and that they would leave you completely alone. The kind of thing that everyone says and that no one actually follows through on. So I didn't fully believe them until it became clear as we gradually started getting into trouble and they kept backing us that actually they walk the walk as well as talk the talk. Yeah, it's an amazing company.
Talk to us about the John Oliver effect, because there is a There is a Gary Neville effect in England.
What is that? Infuriating
It's
people.
usually on the back of the Daily Mail. Yeah, Gary Neville says something, tweets something. It seems to be everywhere within like hours.
Can you
right?
move markets, Gary?
But
Not really.
But there is, right? You have an impact. We've talked about that before. But there is a John Oliver effect, which is maybe more, well, I was going to say more cultural, but I think you're pretty culture setting.
Very
but
cultural, Gary.
He's very cultural.
Yeah.
For you, it's sort of this John Oliver effect. They're like, you can say things and they happen in the world of sort of politics and news agendas, and explain it to
I think
everyone.
it's been slightly overblown, to be honest. Is that we've done some stories and some of the change that we've called for have happened, but sometimes that's just because we're at the final tipping point.
Like
So,
what? What kind of thing are we talking about?
The first thing that we got misplaced credit for was a story about net neutrality, which was one of either the fifth or the sixth show that we did, and we kind of harnessed people to the FCC's website and it crashed. That movement was happening anyway. We just found a way to harness it and point it in one direction.
Okay.
Since then, we have been a little more careful, realising that if we ask people to do something, they might do it. So you can't ask people to do something that you don't then want to see happen.
Okay.
But in terms of affecting legislation, I think we've received way more credit than we actually deserve there.
When did you first hear that phrase, the John Oliver effect?
I think it was in the wake of that net neutrality thing. 'Cause I think because it was a visible impact that we said, go to this website. People went in enough number that it crashed. And then it became clear, I think, to everybody and to us internally that there was a certain amount of power we had to focus people's attention on something. But we're always working, especially with the complicated stories that we're doing. There are activists working in those areas that have been applying pressure for years. Really, we're just coming in right at the end.
You're being humble, but in terms of your sort of, to have that said about you, sometimes I agree with you, the sort of campaigners or people who have been fighting this cause for a long time.
Yeah.
However, they do need someone, a catalyst, to get it over the line. They can't get it over the line themselves, and you have got that.
So it's just a sense of timing then, when to give them a spotlight to show what they're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes the beauty with comedy is it's a blunt instrument sometimes that activists might be not unwilling to use. You can use certain language, you can behave in certain ways that polite society would feel reluctant to. So that is where a show like ours can help work that activists have been doing constantly. Yeah.
John, in England, Emmys are not as big a thing.
No.
In America, Gary, Emmys are a massive thing. You win an Emmy, it's on your resume for life. You put it on your flipping dashboard of your car. I mean, it's a huge thing. You have 14 Emmys for this show.
That's a lot of Emmys.
It's a lot.
That's more Premier League titles than Sir Alex Ferguson. That.
Yes.
Alex Ferguson's got 13 Premier League titles.
Everything-
John's
that
got
can't-
14 Emmys.
It can't
Yes.
be your point of reference for any number, Gary. Oh, that's more than Alex won titles.
It is. But that is but John, like, why do you think? What is it about you? I know you're not going to want to blow your own trumpet, but what is it about you, the show, that connects to bring the Emmys home?
I've no idea. And I mean, awards for comedy are ridiculous, right? They are inherently. There's nothing on earth more subjective than comedy.
Yeah.
As any stand-up knows, like you, even when things are going well, you're only ever looking at the one person in the audience who is not enjoying it. So there's always a counterpoint to any compliment when it comes to comedy. And yeah, we've been very lucky to get those awards, and I do think they have helped us. They've been armour to a certain extent to enable us not to be messed with, to be honest. You get away with more if you've won a bunch of awards. So there is, having said that they are kind of meaningless because they're so subjective, there is a real utility to them for us because it means that we can behave however we want. Having accrued that credit, you want to then spend it on getting yourself in as much trouble as you possibly can.
You mentioned Ricky Gervais before. We interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. He actually said on the show that the freedom was the most important thing for him.
Yes, definitely.
And this move towards people taking control of their own content is definitely a thing, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I think it's just the way that things have technically changed. We've been lucky because we've been in this kind of rarefied air of HBO for 12 years now, or coming up on 12 years. So we've had the ability to do things that others don't have, and I'm cognizant of that, and we're very lucky to have it. But yeah, I think control is paramount with comedy, because people can smell if you're being insincere or if you are curbing the way that you feel or the way that you are phrasing something.
Do you ever get edited?
No, we don't. I mean, we work with lawyers constantly.
Okay, so you sometimes get advised you might just want to have a look at that again or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. I mean, we have a relatively spicy relationship with our lawyers, right? But it's a really important relationship. And I think the key thing is the tension comes in that I think we have two slightly different views on what their job is, right? Because I think they think their job is to stop us from getting sued, point blank. And I think their job is to make sure that when we are sued, we win. And so we nearly agree there, right? It's the distance between those two things is where the fighting.
Have you been sued?
happened.
How many times
we
have
have
you been
been sued? We have been sued, yeah. But we've won every one. We were sued once by a guy who ran a coal company, and that lawsuit took years. But that's the thing. Like, it's like, to go back to your early point, another place might think about the cost of those lawsuits and say, don't say it. We're telling you not to say it. We're not willing to sink this cost in there. We were lucky, and it was very important to me that HBO stood by their word of, no, we're definitely right. He is definitely going to sue, right? Because he's done it before. He's sued local newspapers, and part of his ability to flex that muscle was because he knew they didn't have the money to fight him. So he knew they'd have to back down. But because HBO had the money and the resources, it was really important to me that they did not back down and that we did fight him through the years.
They go for HBO, not you personally. Because if it was you personally, you'd just say sorry straight away. Would you just get out of there?
No. For me, I like the feeling of that trouble, especially when you're right. And I
do a little bit.
Oh,
yes,
God.
I think it's a really. It's probably what drives me, if I'm totally honest. I love that feeling.
You're living on the edge, aren't you, of pushing the boundary of what you can say.
And especially because you knew that he bullied other people. So you thought, well, let's stand up to him. He's dead now. Which is no loss for the world of coal law society. Thankfully, he didn't die before he lost that lawsuit. And as we went on talking about it over the years, the lawyers were sometimes saying, are you comfortable eventually saying this joke in court? Right, and again, that's probably the wrong thing to say to a comedian. Say, I can't think of nothing I want to do more than say this to his face in a legal environment. Even as he finally dropped it, there was one more point that he could have kept going, and that's when he backed down and said, no, we're done. They were thrilled and relieved, and I was slightly disappointed.
John, being sued, winning Emmys, you're very American now. Very American.
Yeah, there's nothing more American than being sued,
Nothing.
Yeah.
And you're a citizen now since 2019.
Yes.
How do you consider yourself? 100% English still, a little bit American? American kids obviously born here?
Yeah, probably both. Like, I think it's hard to... I probably consider myself English emotionally, right? That's hard. There's no piece of paper is going to take those years away.
Okay.
But I do, when I land here, I do feel like I'm coming home. That was one of the many reasons to want to become a citizen. I was realising, like 5 years in, I remember the first time landing at JFK from England, thinking, it's good to be home, and thinking, that's a dangerous thing to think when it's not up to you whether or not you get to stay here.
Yeah.
So that was my beginning with the US immigration process, which is not an easy thing to go through.
Gary's had a moment or two as well with the immigration, haven't you? You're not a fan.
I'm not a great fan. No. It's hard work getting through. But maybe it should be hard work to get into a country, I don't know.
Well, it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be. And I think Americans are often love to say you should come in the right way without understanding that the right way is so narrow and to be functionally impossible.
Do you have to be a Liverpool fan?
Do you have to be a Liverpool fan? No, but I mean, it helps. That's where you are really fucked, Gary.
Exactly. So let's talk Liverpool.
Yes.
You grew up in the Midlands.
Yeah, I grew up in Birmingham. My whole family's from Liverpool. My grandparents are from Knotty Ash and from the Wirral. Yeah, and so they're generationally a Scouse family.
So did you go to Anfield all the time? How was that for your childhood?
Well, my first game I ever went to was at Villa Park, so I saw Liverpool Villa, and since then, apart from Anfield, I've seen them all over the place. I used to live in Crystal Palace, so I would see them all the time down there. But it's been like the most enduring relationship of my life has been with Liverpool Football Club.
Would you prefer Carragher to be here now today than me?
We tried. You probably would.
What is he doing right now?
Do you mean sort of as in today, or do you mean
right
in his
now
life?
Today.
This crossroads he's currently at.
I've often found myself saying, what is Jamie Carragher doing? Even in his playing days sometimes. What are you doing, Jamie?
He was usually putting the ball in the back of his own net.
What about heroes growing up? Ian Rush, is that
Ian Rush?
Yeah,
Ian Rush is the first. I still have Ian Rush's autograph in my wallet now from when I was 7 years old.
Okay, so but Ian Rush was the big hero?
Yes, Ian Rush initially, probably Ian Rush and Kenny, and then I modelled myself as as a Sammy Lee player back then. You know, just I spent most of the time on the bench, and I could put in a decent corner. Yeah.
Sammy Lee was my coach. He was a great lad, Sammy Lee.
Was he?
Yeah. A coach with...
England.
When?
He was coach with England with... I think he was with Sven. He was with Sven. He was a good lad, Sammy.
Yeah, I've loved him ever since.
And so Klopp arrives.
Yes.
Instantly, virtually becomes a hero. Great
Yes.
years.
Yes.
Klopp leaves.
Yes.
You struggle.
As a human being.
Yeah, because you did a thing about it. I mean,
definitely.
You were
Definitely.
6 months ago. You were not in a good place.
No,
John.
I think I knew it was going to be bad because it had been so amazing, the kind of football he played. And unlike younger Liverpool fans, I remember what it was like before he got there, and it was pretty bad. And so just the kind of football that he got us playing, especially up against the juggernaut of Man City, it was just amazing. And then the way he left was so atypical. I think only now do we understand what an amazing situation he left Arne Slot. Even that last day in his speech, I was holding it together until he started singing Arne Slot's name. Because that felt to me like, oh, this is a singular individual. There are not many managers leaving a club that would take the time to sing the name of the guy who's taken over from them. That's when I think it hit me, just the level of loss that it was going to be for that club.
So interestingly, I think so many people thought it would be a dip.
He's done
and
well.
look at where you are.
I think that's right. I think that's the football sense, definitely. I think the thing to remember with Klopp is what he got the city and the fan base through. Not just the darkness of terrible football becoming functional, exciting football, but also, you know, a pandemic. He's a guy with politics of the left. It was a good match with the city. He was the right manager at the right time for reasons far beyond just sport. So that was why I think I will hang on to his time so closely. The first time during the pandemic that I'd felt anything, because everything was so awful, was watching him win the league in front of nobody. And we did. Who was it he was doing that interview with on Sky where he was? He nearly broke down. He was doing an interview and he started getting choked up and said, "Oh, I've got to go," and just walked away. As an English person, like watching someone nearly express emotion and shutting it down is my perfect way of anyone expressing emotion. Don't actually do it. Get close and then run away. Yeah, he was an amazing guy.
Do you still watch the games now?
Yes, I watch all the time.
What is your weekend? Yeah, tell us about your...
with you.
Yeah, and I love having you. But talk us through do the kids watch? Are you
I'm
let everyone be quiet? How does it work?
Forcing them to become Liverpool fans the way that I was forced as a child. My dad, it was not on offer to be a fan of a different club. So yes, they are Liverpool fans now. They know the songs. And I'm trying to indoctrinate them as much as I can.
And it's interesting, isn't it, over here? Because there's nothing else on in the morning.
Yes.
And I think that's a big part, do you, John, of why it's so successful. There's nothing up against it.
And it's on. I mean, that's the interesting thing is all the games are on in a way that they're not in England, right? You just the idea that you could watch every 3 o'clock game in England is just completely mind-blowing to people. But you can see everything. So you have better access to football here than you do in England. That's the weird truth.
Yeah, and I've spoken to families down the years. I always remember this one guy who told me about his teenage sons who were actually getting out of bed. You know, they were 15 and 17, and they would get out of bed to watch the football and come down and spend time with him. And he was like, other people's kids still in bed, till 11 o'clock, but the Premier League over here with that time has it really has created a bit of a family feel, hasn't it?
Yes, it can also be a day ruiner.
It can, especially a Saturday early game.
That's the problem.
With the way they've been playing under Slot, do you see yourselves as favourites?
No. We've had too many near misses. And this is too early in the season, don't you think?
I think it's too early.
You can't...
We lost the league by having an 11-point lead in January. We caught Newcastle, I think, with a 12-point lead in So I'd be dampening that one if I was Liverpool. I'd be saying, hang on a second, that's a bit misleading, that.
But do you think there's any Liverpool player or fan who actually believes that they're confidently favourites? That feels a little like a media creation to me, partly because it's built on...
Yeah, and I'm going to keep pushing it as well, just to put a bit of pressure
on. Of course you
just keep pushing it and peddling that one. You can't lose it from here.
Get drunk on hope, exactly. Crush with pressure. So no, I don't think so. I do think, as amazing as to say that City might be out of it, And that's such a beautiful sentence for the human
Right?
mouth to say. I really hope it's true. But I mean, Arsenal look really strong. So
I think if I was Liverpool at this stage in the season, what I'll be thinking is, we've got one hell of a chance, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I don't think any Liverpool fan or player or us at the start of the season would have thought Liverpool would have been anywhere near this position. I had them outside the top 4, which is embarrassing. Because I just thought the dip between, you mentioned it, Klopp.
I totally agree.
Klopp leaving, I just thought there would be a natural drop-off, which there hasn't been.
Klopp leaving to a guy who was not first choice as well, which is crazy to even think now. But like the first choice was locked up in Alonso.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was going to be a struggle to get top 4. So I think one of the many reasons, other than history, that Liverpool fans would not be saying we're favourites right now is partly because it really feels like we're playing with the house's money. To even be in the position of saying we've got a chance is not where anyone thought we were going to be.
No.
You came over nearly 20 years ago, or that's when the South Norwood storage started being paid for. So nearly 20 years ago. So where are we now from where were we then?
I mean, America's got a very different team than it had. But I think America's always thought it was better as a national team than it actually was. Now they're dealing with a different level of talent across the team. They've got a really good manager. I'm saying they, right? I'm a US citizen, but when it comes to the US
You're an England fan.
football team, I'm an England
too.
fan,
Yeah.
and it's that there's no way that's going to
Correct.
budge. Yeah, I
Correct.
think I used to, if I'm totally honest, actively wish ill on the US soccer team.
Right.
Because I thought, you've got everything else, you can't have this sport as well.
It's true. It's true.
Now, I probably don't feel that way at all. I think I root for their success to a point and not beyond that point.
Yeah, but you think this country is in a different place 20 years on than
don't
where
you?
it was? Yeah, I mean, I've been here nearly 12 years and I've seen a difference. You must have seen an even starker difference in just terms of popularity, not just the Premier League, but it's just everywhere, isn't it?
Yes, well, you would know that better than anyone, though, right? Because you've been the litmus test for watching it go from being a relatively niche
Oh, very,
sport to one that has massive mainstream appeal. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are the face of that. You've surfed that wave.
You should have an Emmy. You should have 14 Emmys.
You should have Emmys.
That's a very sensitive subject. I'll be honest with you.
You have one of mine, Rebecca. Yeah.
Then you only have 13 like Sir Alex.
Perfect.
We're all happy then, aren't
That's
we?
why we got you here today, John. I got to be honest. Just before we wrap up the World Cup, I have an 8-year-old. You said a 6 and a 9-year-old.
Yes.
I mean, this could be certainly once in a generation, could be once in a in a lifetime, to be a home World Cup and have the final down the road.
I know, literally just over there. You
At
can
the
almost see
MetLife
the
Stadium.
stadium from the office building that we're in.
I mean,
it'll be amazing.
Levels of excitement. You're going to try and go and see as many England games?
I will absolutely. Yeah, I've only actually previously ever been to one World Cup. I was in Rustenburg in South Africa for England US.
No.
In fact, yeah,
Was it 0-0?
Absolute mess.
Was it 1-1?
1-0?
It was.
Rob
It
Green,
was
wasn't
1-1. Rob Green. Yeah, Gerrard and then Rob Green let it through his legs. And,
Yeah. It was a tough World Cup.
It was a tough
Okay,
World Cup.
this is going to be better.
Yeah.
We need you to finish with a passionate plea to camera to try and convince Alexander-Arnold, Salah and Van Dijk to stay at your club. I'm praying that...
John Oliver
You
style.
want that? You want that?
No,
Gary?
I absolutely want them out in an instant. I mean, they're causing me great issues. But,
Yeah.
as a Liverpool fan...
Mo, first, if you want to go, it's fine, Mo. You've given more than enough. But I would ask you to think, do you want to go? Will you be loved more elsewhere than you're loved right now? I'd argue not. Again, if you want to go, I want what's best for you. I feel like a wife who's being left saying, I want you to be happy with her, Mo. And I hope that she's as good to you as I've been to you. So, Mo, please don't go, though. Please don't leave. No one will love you more than Liverpool loves you. But if you want to go, it's fine. Please don't. Verge, the foundations of a building can't leave. Otherwise, the building falls down. Right? When you're the cornerstone of a building, you do not have the kind of flexibility that the roof has. The roof can go and you can fly another one in. You actually can't go. Mo can choose to, you can't. Trent, lad, talk to Gerrard. He nearly went as well. Don't do it. What? Is Madrid nice in February? I doubt it. I haven't heard many good things about it. You know where you want to be, Trent. Merseyside in February. You want a nice low grey sky. Aperitifs are not what they're cracked up to be.
He's going, isn't he?
He's going. He's definitely going.
Brilliant. John.
They don't stay now. I mean,
I did. I've done all I could, but yeah, if you do go, Mo, then have a great life. Have a great life, Mo.
John, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for
It's a
joining
pleasure,
us on
guys.
It's Called Soccer.
Of course.
Come back anytime. Bring your Emmy for me,
It's
please.
not called soccer. No.
All right, guys, that is all we have time for this week's episode of It's Called Soccer. But don't worry, because a best of episode is coming out on December the 23rd. In the meantime, all the normal things we're asking of you: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, subscribe and follow It's Called Soccer. Gary, Jamie, have a very happy Christmas, and I'll see you in 2025.